Disability Programs Manager at the DPM's office. And then later on the program, on our second segment, we'll be joined by Batobile Dlamini from the Eswatini Higher Education Council just to get an insight. Sibone a list of the registered institutions in the country. What standards are required? What requirements ladingekile ukuthi institution iwamite in order to be registered and recognized by the council. Ngaphi institutions in the country that are currently registered to operate in Eswatini. Njengoba sakhumbula ukuthi besaba maningi amakoliji lokwenza ukuthi sekavuliwe lapha nalapha kepha they operate illegally. Sifuna ukuva ukuthi ngimaphi institutions that are supposed to operate legally in the country. She'll be joining us at 7:30 this morning. Do stay tuned. For now, let's take a break. Stawena Tinzaba, Eswatini.
To all the viewers of Eswatini TV in the kingdom and beyond. Eswatini TV is regulated by the Eswatini Communications Commission through the Broadcasting Code and Broadcasting Guidelines. Under these instruments, the station commits to broadcasting information and news that have been fact-checked, programs and content in respectful language with no elements of hate speech, violence or sexual activity. If you hear any unsuitable content on this channel, you have a right to voice your complaints with the station management. Should you not be satisfied with the response or action taken, you can escalate your matter to the Communications Commission at PO Box 7811 Babani. Call 2406 7000 or send an email to info@esccom.org.za. For more information, visit www.esccom.org.za.
Asibenze sinemukele nathi Tinzaba. Uvulongo lokusemthethweni umhlangano we-World Government Summit edolobheni eDubai eveni le-United Arab Emirates ngaphansi kwesichubulo lesithi Shaping Future Governments. Kulo mhlangano umengameli wase-Ethiopia ukhwele watehlela emaveni lanjingile lawasola ngekucekela phansi intuthuko yelivekati lase-Afrika. Umhlonishwa wandvunankulu Russell Dlamini bekade amelele ingwenyama kulo mhlangano.
Lomhlangano i-World Government Summit uvulwa ngalokusemthethweni ngusihlalo walomhlangano welive le-UAE Mohammed Al-Gihawi lonxuse baholi ukuthi bavulelane tifuba kulomhlangano kude bohulumende batawukhona ukuthola indlela nemase ekuthuthukisa emave awo. Kube kungathi usho kuleshoko kumengameli welive le-Ethiopia Taye Atse-Selassie lochazile ukuthi bona bayi-Afrika sebethembe ukuthi nasesebenta kahle izivumelwano setekuthengiselana ngaphandle kwetincabelelwano emkhathini kwemave ase-Afrika. I-Afrika itawukhona kuyekela kuncika emaveni lanjingile layithatha njengabozimkhamisa. Uthi i-Afrika seyifuna kusebenta nemave lewathembako. Wasole kakhulu emave lanjingile lenta ukuthi i-Afrika ichubeke nekusalela emuva. Usilamave ahambisa embili ukuthi make akangasebenzi njengoba i-Afrika balinganiselwa ku 500,000 bomake labangasebenzi.
The first one is trust. I believe earlier today the CEOs of IBM and Ericsson mentioned about trust, rightly so. In our case, beyond development prosperity, we believe that we have to address issues related to trust and dependability in forging our collective aspiration. Need sets of emerging issues ranging from artificial intelligence to mega infrastructure and biotech can only be impactful if they are anchored in understanding and rooted in trust. For too long, African countries have navigated relationships that are disappointingly and sometimes frustratingly asymmetrical and lopsided.
Letinye tindzaba letitekiwe elangeni lekucala tifayikasi kutsi emave angayisebentisa njani i-AI kute atithuthukise. Kuyevakala-ke kutsi ngemnyaka wa-2030 kutawuvuleka emathuba emisebenti langu-170 million ngayo i-AI. Indzaba yebudlelwane bamengameli Donald Trump ivakalise ibahlupha kakhulu baholi labanyenti. Labanye batsi kumcoka kutsi emave langaboni ngasolinye neMelika lafa ekhatsi Iran akhulumisane nayo. Letinye tihloko letitsinziwe tifake ekhatsi indzaba yekuntengantenga kwetimakethe temhlaba kanye nekutsi i-AI ayingasetjentiswa njengesikhali sempi. Lena indzaba letekwe kabanti ngumengameli welive le-Estonia lesekulelinye lelive lelihamba embili kuto tebuciko. Kubika Lington Gule ngiseDubai.
Umhlonishwa waNdvunankhulu Russell Dlamini sewubikele baholi bemhlaba ukuthi tekuvakasha eSwatini tiyachubeka nekufaka sandla lesibonakalako emnotfweni welive. Uthi ngenxa yekugucuka kwesimo selitulu live lifakile imigomo yekulwa nekugucuka kwesimo selitulu nekulondvolotwa kwemvelo lisatfutfukisa tekuvakasha. Ndvunankhulu bakhuluma ngesikhatsi yangulesinye setikhulumi lebetikhuluma ngaphansi kwesihloko lesithi ingabe luhlangothi lutekuvakasha lusemcoka yini kubohulumende. Umhlangano bowuchubeka thutane nalapho kubanjelwe khona umhlangano i-World Governments Forum edolobheni le-Dubai e-United Arab Emirates.
Ngemuva kwekungenela kuvulwa kwemhlangano i-World Government Summit lapha edolobheni le-Dubai eveni le-United Arab Emirates, umhlonishwa waNdvunankhulu Russell Dlamini ubeyingcenye yetikhulumi nachubeka umhlangano lapho bekubuka khona sihloko lesithi ingabe luhlangothi lutekuvakasha lusemcoka yini kubohulumende. Ndvunankhulu abetinatina lesihloko akanye nemlingani wakhe Dr. Roosevelt Skerrit we-Commonwealth of Dominica. Lisekela lemengameli welive le-Democratic Republic of Timor-Leste leliphindze libe yindvuna yetemvelo umhlonishwa Francisco Calbuadi. Umhlonishwa waNdvunankhulu watise baholi kulo mhlangano kutsi luhlangothi lwetekuvakasha lungilolunye letinhlangothi letingumgogodla wemnotfo welive. Utsi live selikhonile nekwenyusa sibalo setivakashi letivakashela live leSwatini njalo ngemnyaka. Ndvunankhulu utsi lokunye lokuthuthukisa loluhlangothi buhle belive lakangwane njengoba tivakashi tiyatfokotela tindzaba telive nalokunye lokulicapho leMaswati. Ndvunankhulu utsi emasiko elive nawo ayalithuthukisa loluhlangothi letekuvakasha. Uyigcizelele kakhulu indzaba yekutsi eMaswati akawanaki nje masiko ngoba endela tivakashi, kepha-ke emasiko ayinhlitiyo yebuve beMaswati.
First of all, we understand the vulnerabilities that we have to climate change in Eswatini. We have included mitigation measures in our nationally determined contribution. We were actually the first country to integrate disaster risk management in the NDC. And we were happy actually to get an award for that. But this is just for our own protection, and so we integrate disaster risk management into our policies. I can give an example that because tourism is also anchored in our beautiful scenery and also in conservation of wildlife and biodiversity, so we have to ensure that we protect that nature that we have so that it can be seen not only by the current generation but also by future generations. Eswatini tourism is no longer a periphery industry. It's now in the core of revenue generation for the country. And we've returned to and actually exceeded pre-COVID numbers in that we've actually now exceeded the numbers of tourists that visited the country.
Endzabeni yemitsetfo yekonga imvelo, Ndvunankhulu uchazile kutsi live lingulamanye lemave emhlaba lanemitsetfo lecinile yekonga imvelo. Indzaba yekwenyuka kwetivakashi eveni ifakazwe nangilo libandla letekuvakasha njengoba eminyakeni lophelile kungene tivakashi letingetulu kwesigidzi eveni. Kanti nga-2024 kwangena 964,880 lokukhomba kukhula nga-7.5%. Ehekeni lasengwenya ngilapho kwangena khona letinyenti tivakashi. Kubika Lington Gule ngiseDubai eveni le-United Arab Emirates.
Umhlonishwa Ndvunankhulu Russell Dlamini uthi kuya embili lokungiko kutemphilo kulesifundza kubita kutsi emave angabuki kutsi enta kahle ngalinye kodvwa akabuke kuhamba kanye kanye kucinisekiswe kutsi wonke muntu uyafinyelela ngekulingana kutemphilo letisezingeni lelisetulu. Kusho lokho ngesikhathi yavula ngalokusemthethweni umhlangano wama-76 wetindvuna tembuso tematiko etemphilo lasemaveni laseMpumalanga lesekhatsi kanye naseNingizimu Afrika lobanjelwe eHappy Valley lapho bekamelelwe liphini lakhe umhlonishwa Thulidladla. Ndvunankhulu uthi indlela yokusebenta leshiya labanye emuva ayisiyo lecinile.
Kulo mhlangano lona umhlonishwa Ndvunankhulu Russell Dlamini bekamelelwe liphini lakhe umhlonishwa Thulidladla. Lo mhlangano ubanjwe ngephansi kwesiqubulo lesithi kundlondlobalisa temphilo ngenhloso yekuletha kulingana, kumelana netimo kanye nekukhonza pheceleti enhancing health systems for equity, resilience and sustainability. Ndvunankhulu uthi lokhu kubita kutsi kutsatfwe tinyatselo ngekuphatima kweliso futhi kusisekelo salesifundza sekubona likusasa liphilile.
The progress, and true progress for that matter, demands that we move beyond national averages to focus on equity, ensuring that every individual in every community has fair and just access to quality care. A system that leaves its citizens behind is not a strong system. Our regional platform is indispensable for harnessing collective wisdom to close these gaps and build systems that serve all our people without exception.
Indvuna yetemphilo umhlonishwa Mduduzi Matsebula ithi lo mhlangano ungulapho kutawubukwa tisombululo letinsha etinkingeni letibhekene nalesifundza.
We meet at a time when our health systems face complex, interconnected pressures. Health financing and workforce constraints, climate-related shocks, health security threats, and the rising burden of non-communicable diseases alongside persistent infectious diseases.
Lo mhlangano lohlanganise tindvuna tetemphilo, tishayamtsetfo, bacwaningi nebaholi betemphilo utawubuka tindzaba tetemphilo letitsintsa onke emave alesifundza. Eswatini litawuzuza kuloku njengobe lisemkhankasweni wekwenta konke lokusemandleni kucinisa tona temphilo. Lobikako ngithemkosi Mavimbela. Ngina mpendulo Gumbi nasikhumbuzo Dlamini ezulwini.
Emave ase-Afrika kumele acinise tinhlelo letitfutfukisa tetemphilo kude kubete nangeliphutsa make loshonako nakatetfwele noma abeleka. Lokho kushiwo nguloyo lobeka ngumengameli welive leTanzania Jakaya Kikwete nakakhulumisana nalomsakato emhlanganweni wetindvuna tetemphilo.
Mengameli Kikwete wahola live leTanzania kusukela ngeminyaka wa-2005 yeminyakeni wa-2015 kanti ungenele lo mhlangano ngenhloso yokuvunulisa lamave ukuthi angatithuthukisa kanjani tempilo njengoma ngesikhathi asesesihlawuleni miningi imisebenzi yentuthuko layenda lifake ikhathi kona ukuthuthukisa tempilo tekulima temfundo kubala lokumbalwa. Kikwete uthi emave angasisimbi ekuhlanyeleni imali kutempilo.
When you look at the Human Development Report, the World Bank Human Development Report or the WHO report, unfortunately Africa, when you look at the health indicators, the major health indicators, yes, in most of these indicators Africa is not doing well. Africa shares an unfair burden of the health challenges. I think that's the best word. The best word to do. So in one area where we have a big problem is high maternal and child mortality.
uthi khulelwa kwemuntu wesifazane akusiso sono noma into lekumele yentiwe inhlekisa njengoma kuyimpilo. Uthi emafa ke into esiciniseko ukuthi make uthethwele uhamba emakhilomitha amancane kufika emtholampilo nekuthi angashoni ngako. Lo mengameli kubheka ukuthi achubeke nekuba ingcinya lomhlangano ude ufike emaphethelweni. Lo bikako ngumpendulo kumbi anazikhumbuzo Dlamini ezulwini.
Emavela asempumalanga lesikhathi kanye naseningizimu nelivekade le-Afrika akakubalekele kugcina ngekwakha ivumelwano ngemlomo nasemaphepheni kuphela kepha akendlule atifeze leto tivumelwano kude kutawuqinisekisa ukuthi itempilo liyafinyelela kubo bonke bantfu timelane netimo letimatima tiphindze kube nguleto letisimeme. Lokhu kuvetwe ngumcondzisi wenhlangano ye-East Central and Southern Africa Health Community Dr. Ntuli Kabolongwe ngesikhathi kuvulwa ngalokusemthethweni umhlangano wetindvuna tetempilo ngaphansi kwalenhlangano.
Lo mhlangano wama-76 i-76 conference wetindvuna tetempilo emaveni lasempumalanga ekhatsi kanye naseningizimu ne-Afrika ubanjwe ngephansi kwesicubulo lesithi kuthuthukisa tempilo ukuthi tifinyelele kubo bonke bantfu timelane netingcinamba tiphindze kube ngileto letisimeme kubheka ukuthi uguca mhla tisihlanu lenyanga lesetulu kanti bonkenelwe ngemavela ayimfica lamalunga kanye nalamanye lasiphohlongo nasefake ticelo tekuba ingcinya lenhlangano. Dr. Kapolongo uthi emava kabambisane ekutempilo ukuthi kuhlengwe tigidzi temphefumulo.
As AUD and NAPAD, you can count on us. You can count on us as a preferred partner, as a determined partner, and we'll work hand in hand with you to realize the outcomes of these meetings.
Dokotela uthe emava ayadzinga kubambana sathuthukisa tempilo kanti kumele angashiyeli ngaphandle abantu labasha njengoma baleli kusasa lelivekade uthi imihlangano yalolu hlobo ingagcini ukuthi kusayinwe tivumelwano letigcinela khona kepha lamava kendlule into lokuphatheka ngaleti vumelwano uthi masinyane kutawusukunyiswa libandla lekuqinisekisa kulandzela kwetivumelwano letithathwa emhlanganweni yalolu hlobo. Umcondzisi wenhlangano lebuke tifo kanye nekuvikela kwato esifundzeni leseningizimu ne-Afrika Dokotela Lurie kuthi kunyenti lokusadzinga kushintshwa itivumelwano tetempilo ikakhulu leto litathathwa enhlanganweni yebunye bemave e-Afrika i-African Union.
Africa must be able to protect Africans at their speed and also at their skills based on evidence.
Dokotela Rie kuthe emava lenhlangano kumele abambana acale kutakhela imithi yawo anganciki kakhulu kulamanye emave futhi ayakhe ngelinani lelisetulu njengoma lokho kungaqinisekisa tempilo letisimeme naletifinyelela kubo bonke bantfu. Uthi lamava kalwele ukuthi nakuvela tifo letinsha tivikele ngaleso sikhathi kunekuthi alwe nemithelela yako. Lo melele inhlangano yakamhlaba yetempilo lapha event Dr. Susan Tembo uthi emave kumele akukhuthalele kuhlanyela imali kutempilo ukuthi angaphindza abhekana noloko wavelela ngesikhathi semkhuhlane we-COVID-19. Dr. Tembo uthi emava adzinga kuthuthukisa indlela nika ngayo ulusito lwetempilo washo nekuthi kuti alwe ngcono netempilo ayadzinga kucala nekulwa nemithelela yesimo selitulu.
To promote health, we must respond decisively to climate change and address the determinants of health through cross-sector policies.
Dokotela uthi lamava kanike timfundziso tetempilo nemphahla yekusebenta kubantu labasemaphandleni kude kuliwe ngcono ikakhulu netifo letingathathelwana. Inhlangano yebunye be-Afrika ivetile ukuthi seyivele inato tinhlelo letinsha letihlose kucinisa tetempilo kulelivekati lathi titawethulwa ngalokusemthethweni emhlanganweni wabaholi lotawubanjwa kulenyanga lesetulu. Lo bikako ngumpendulo kumbi anazikhumbuzo Dlamini ezulwini.
Libhange First National Bank libuyisele emuva emakhasimendini alo imali leyendlulako ku-1.5 million emalangeni ngeluhlelo lwema-fuel cashback rewards eminyakeni elophelile. Lokhu kuvetwe ngumphathi waleli bhange Thokozani Dlamini ngesikhathi lihlangene nebahleli betindzaba kanye netinsatheli eHouse on Fire eMorkens.
Ngiyajabula kumemetela ukuthi eminyakeni lo endlulile wa-2025 libhange libuyisele emva emakhasimendeni alo imali lendlulako ku-1.5 million ngehlelo lethu lwema-fuel cashback rewards. Le mali lena-ke ibiyele emakhasimendini ethu lendlulako ku-35,000 lokukhombisa kukhula etinомbolweni teminyaka wa-2024.
Chantel Litla lobuke elihlangothi lwabosomabhizinisi kuleli bhange uyaveda ukuthi bathuthukisa indlela labangesekela ngayo bosomabhizinisi labancane uthi lokhu kufaka ekhathi kukhulisa imali labayibolekako bosomabhizinisi.
So when we started off with squad lending, it was 250,000, which our SME clients can access without providing any information. We then increased it to 500,000, and there are plans to increase it even further.
Bahleli betindzaba bathole lithuba lekubuta umhleli wetinhlelo etindzabeni kulomsakato Patience Magagula ubutile kutsi yini lelibhange lelikwentako kusita abantfu labasha ngemfundzate kulesikhatsi lapho khona bakudzinga kakhulu kwesekelwa ngalendlela.
We see in South Africa, banks, are doing a lot in terms of offering scholarships, university scholarships. What's the plan of the bank in future to be able to inject into these young people?
Sihlalo wenhlangano yebahleli betindzaba Mbongeni Mbingo yena ubute kutsi lelibhange lentani kuvikela imininingwane yemakhasimende njengobe kuke kwabonakala etinkhundleni tekuchumana sekunalabafake imininingwane lenjengalena. Asaphendvula umphathi walelibhange uchazile kutsi lelibhange liyachubeka nekubuka kwekutsi yini lelingayenta kwesekela kakhulu bantfu labasha. Uphindze wachaza kutsi endzabeni yekuvikela imininingwane basebenzisana netinhlangothi letifanele lokufaka ekhatsi i-ESCOM kucinisa tekuphepha kubongcondvomshina. Lelibhange lichazile kwekuthi kuyabonakala kutsi sive ikakhulu lesisemafemini solo siyachubeka nekulahlekelwa imali ngabofacata. I-FNB ithe emaswadakati kutsi angeke libhange lifune imininingwane ngelicingo noma nga-WhatsApp. Lelibhange libese liniketa tipho tinsatheli letisafunza ema-graduate trainees letingu-18 letibuya etinhlangothini temaphephandzaba, umsakato, imisakato yetitfombe lokufaka ekhatsi lo msakato. Lobikako nguNelson Dlangamandla nginasimuva Shongwe eMalkens.
Inkampani yashukela Eswatini Sugar seyesekele inhlangothi letahlukene ngemali lengu-170,000 emalangeni. Umphathi walenkampani Banele Nyamane uthi bafise ukuthi nabathuthuka bathuthuke kanye nemimango. Lo msebenzi ubanjelwe emahhovisini alenkampani eMbabane.
Namuhla ke sidongeda imali lenga-170,000 emalangeni etinhlanganweni letinzatfu yekucala inkampani yase Eswatini Electricity Company lapha khona sithatha imbandzakanya kanye nayo mhla ka-28 March uma kujwala usuku lwe-Earth Hour. Inhlangano yesibili lesitayihlaba ngesigozwane i-Rotary Club yaseMbabane sesineminyaka ke sisebenza ne-Rotary Club lapha khona nonyaka batawuthenga nga-70,000 i-mobile unit lebatayisebenzisa enzevane uma bamikisa lusito kusita ngekugula kwematinyo kulabo labahluphekile kuleyo ndzawo. Yesithathu ke inhlangano ye-Eswatini School Sports siyakholelwa ke ukuthi sibakashukela siye sibhilivele kuloko ukuthi sithi lamandla noma loshukela lomfakile kufuna phinze umkhokhe calories in calories out. Kungako ke sithi ke labantwana labayidla kole product yethu abathole kushukumisa umtimba phinze ke futhi nelive lithole nje lithuba lokuthi libone emakhono noma ke bantfu labadinga ejim takusasa even.
I-Eswatini Electricity Company, Mbabane Rotary Club kanye nelitiko letemfundvo libonge kakhulu ku-Eswatini Sugar ngalokunikelelwa. Letinhlangothi letahlukene lichazile ukuthi imali lebanikelelwe yona itawudlala indima lenkulu kutfutfukisa kusebenta kwato.
We appreciate this donation and believe that it will take us a long way.
We normally get doctors who volunteer, doctors from overseas as well as local people who work in South Africa as doctors. They come in and assist us in servicing our communities that are not fortunate.
On behalf of the Ministry of Education and Training, we applaud your support, which has continued over many years. Though there has been disturbances, we applaud the continuity, and we also pray that this partnership and this sponsorship will never ever stop.
I-Eswatini Sugar ithi seyifake imali lebalelwa ku-1.7 million emalangeni kulomnyaka kwesekela tinkampani letahlukene. Lobikako nguNelson Dlangamandla navuma inkosi inzinisa eMbabane.
Kuleti qamuka enkantolo lenkulu libhentshi lalenkantolo lithi labede kulenkantolo bafuna kumisa uhulumende ekuletheni tiboshwa letingoti telive lasemelika kuleli bede emandla ekuletha lendzaba enkantolo ilocal standing. Insathela lomsakato Fortune langamandla ihlanganise lombiko lolandzelako ngalendzaba kanye naletinye letendeke etinkantolo takuleli.
Isicelo sekunqanza uhulumende kuletheni kuleli tiboshwe lemacala amatima eveni lasemelika silethwe kule nkantolo lenkulu ye-Eswatini Education Center. Ummeli Mzondile Masuku ye-Eswatini Rural Women's Assembly kanye nameli usimelane lendzaba le belelwe lijaji lenkantolo lenkulu Titus Mlangeni, lijaji Ticheme Dlamini kanye nelijaji Bonkosi Magagula. Esijubeni sawo lamajaji avumelele ngevilinye ukuthi laba labede kule nkantolo bethi inshisekelo leconze ngco i-direct interest yekuletha lendzaba yenkantolo. Ngaleso sizathu lamajaji avumelene ukuthi laba labede kule nkantolo bede mandla ekuletha lendzaba enkantolo egameni lalabanye noma-ke sive semaswati i-local standing judicial. Lamajaji athi i-local standing umnyango wekuqala ngca yokungena enkantolo. Lesijubo sichubeka sithi ngokomthetho yenqubo yenkantolo telakuleli Roman Dutch common law lo wenta tinsolo kumele khona eqinisekisa ukuthi imaqiniso. Lesijubo sithi lendzaba isenkantolo ngenxa yezivumelwano sahulumende lelive lasemelika. Sichubeka sithi labede kule nkantolo abakhona ekhipha lezivumelwano ukuthi inkantolo nanayo itakhona kusibukisisa kahle. Lesijubo sichubeka sithi kude umthetho lokhona lokasetshenziswa ngilabede enkantolo kuphocelela ndvunankulu welive ukuthi abanike lezivumelwano sekuletha kalabo zidlani laba ingoti kuleli. Sithi lokhu kuthela umhlaba kulesicelo lesilethwe ngilaba labede kule nkantolo. Lamajaji achubeka athi live lasemelika lisingcinya labo labaphendvulako kule ndzaba. Kanti phela nakungathiwa labo zidlani bayajikiswa kuleli kumele babuyele emuva emamelikeni. Lamajaji abese athi angeke ente isijubo sekuthi ngubani lokumele abhadale tindleko tekuletha lendzaba kule nkantolo. Lakuleli lemuko letiboshwa telive lasemelika tiwombele timbili. Ngenyanga yakholwane eminyakeni ka-2025 lamukela letingu-5 kwase kuthi ngenyanga yembala kuwumnyaka ka-2025 lamukela letingu-10. Munye waletiboshwa wajikiswa wabuyiswa leveni lakubo laseJamaica. Uhulumende kule ndzaba le bekazamele ngummeli Ndabenhle Dlamini akanye nemmeli Siboniso Hlawe labevele ehhovisini lengcweti yetemthetho kuleli. Labede kule nkantolo babelwe ngummeli Mzondile Masuku kanye nemmeli Mhlengi Mabuza. Akulokunye khona lapha enkantolo lenkulu. Libandla le-Africa Evangelical Church AEC seligijimele kule nkantolo lenkulu lapho lifuna kumisa likomiti leligatsha lelibandla lisemankayane lelifuna kuthatha leli gatsha. Leli bandla lisemankayane lisendzaweni yaseDufusini kanti libitwa ngekuthi kusekuthokozeni Africa Evangelical Church. Lode kule nkantolo ngumengameli waleli bandla le-AEC Meshaqolani Dladla wekutsabuka eDurban eveni laseNingizimu Afrika. Labalethwe kule nkantolo ngusihlalo welikomiti laleli gatsha lasemankayane okunguSifiso Hlatshwayo, lisekela lakhe Sanele Msibi. Labanye ngimabhalana waleli komiti Ncobile Mkhwanazi kanye nelisekela lakhe echamukile jele. Labanye labalethwe kule nkantolo nguSimanga Msibi noMpumelelo Hlatshwako kanye naRobin Msibi. Mengameli Dladla watisa inkantolo ukuthi laba sebaphuma esicogogwana abafuna kushintsha leli gatsha lase-AEC leliseMankayane libitwe ngeligama lelisha lelithi New Life Church. Dladla uthi laba sebafaka umoya lamanye amalunga aleli bandla kusinanabo abagucula iminyanga wathi bide ngemalunga aleli bandla lelisha. Dladla uchubeka ukuthi lamalunga lawa sekake etama kubhalisa leli bandla lawo lelisha itiko letemabhizinisi. Uthi bafuna kubese basebenzisa sakhiwo sasekuthokozeni njengesakhiwo sabo. Uthi bafuna kwenta kungathi leli bandla lemndeni wakaMsibi nanawo lolunga lelo bandla lase-AEC. Usinalisacala leli gatsha lelisedufusini bekukade kukhontiwe emabaleni esikoleni sasekuthokozeni primary school. Wathi sinkantolo ukuthi ngenxa yekhula kwaleli gatsha umcondzisi we-Roots Construction Robin Msibi wase watisa leli bandla ukuthi bangumndeni wakaMsibi banikela ngemasimu lapho kutakwa sakhiwo lesisha saleli gatsha. Dladla wengeta ukuthi lendzaba le yatiwa nangibandla kancane wasedufusini. Uthi seliphelile kwakhiwa leli sondro ngesikhathi lendluliselwa kuleli bandla le-AEC bekukhona ngisho naloyo bekade ngumengameli Prince Mtambo. Dladla uchubeka uthi inqushunqushu kuleli gatsha leliseMankayane isuswe ukuthi libandla le-AEC limise umfundisi Mfundo Dvube lowamisa nalabanye abafundisi balamanye amagatsha leli bandla kuleli. Dladla uthi kukhona abazalwane labangahambisani nekumiswa kwaDvube. Dladla ube uyakhonkosela ejajini lale nkantolo uNkosinathi Maseko ukuthi alifane lincanze laba ekuthatheni leli gatsha leliseMankayane. Uthi uma lijaji Maseko lingabancanzi laba utawuphathamiseka kuchubeka kwekhonta uthi imphefumulo kanye nalabangcwele basonini nanini batawuphathamiseka kakhulu ngesikhathi kuhlanganiswa lo mbiko lendzaba le beyikathi kubheke ukuthi ingene enkantolo nalapho labaphendvulako kubheke ukuthi bathi iphendvule etinsolo letibhekiswe kibo ngakulokunye khona lapha enkantolo lenkulu lenkantolo icitse ngelifastelo isicelo sekutokela ngephandle zasomabhizinisi sosolwa ngumbuso ngekuthi bekafuna kuhlasela emaswati lebekadze emkhosini wencwala eminyakeni lophelile losomabhizinisi longizwela idlamini oboshwa ngamaphoyisa nathi 22 enyangeni yengongo eminyakeni 2025 ubheke emacala ekuphula tehluko temthetho lona netiphekula sikhuni usolwa ngekutfulakala netichumani kanye netinhlavu tesibhamu kanye netibhamu ngalokungekho emthethweni isicelo sakhe sekutokela ngephandle lebekade sifake embiko elijaji lenkantolo lenkulu Justice Mavuso umbuso bokazi usiphikisa lijaji Mavuso licitse ngelifastelo lesicelo semsolwa lijaji lithi sizathu salokhu ukuthi umsolwa uthi unebuve lobubili phela kuleli kanye nalelo baseningizimu Afrika ijaji lithi kuyingoti ukuthi umsolwa abe nebuve lobubili lithi umthetho sisekelo lakuleli awubuvumeli buve lobubili ijaji lithi lokhu kuveta inkinga yokuthi itawugcinwa njani imigomo yokutokela ngephandle letokhishwa ngenkantolo ijaji lithi noma umsolwa angakhona kubhadala imali yokutokela ngephandle kodwa nase angephandle nangabe ukutakwenteka balekele kutoka kwemacala akhe ngenxa yokuthi angilawula bucayi utawuvele nje abalekele eveni laseningizimu Afrika njengalokho anebuve bakhona ijaji lithi umsolwa lokho angakwenta masinyane nje asebenzisa ticaco informal crossings ijaji lichubeka lithi noma kungathiwa ke inkantolo inika umsolwa imvume yokutokela ngephandle lebucayi kodwa indzaba yokuthi angabaleka kuleyo asebenzisa dona ticaco ngakho kulukhuni ukusebenzisa lembandzela ukuthi angabalekele eningizimu Afrika lapho kunemabhizinisi lamanye akhe khona ijaji Mavuso lichubeka lithi noma umsolwa athi uma kwentekile abalekela kuteka kwemacala akhe lakuleli lingasebenzisa sivumelwano sengidluliselana ngabomsolwa nelive laseningizimu Afrika ijaji lisi lenkantolo ngabe ihlulekile kwenta umsebenzi wayo uma ingavuma nje kwakona ukuthi umsolwa akhona ekubalekela kuteka kwemacala akhe endzabeni ukuthi umsolwa athi uyagula lijaji Mavuso lithi likholelwa ukuthi kungahlelwa leminyango ecinzatimile ukuthi umsolwa akhona kulesa dokotela wakhe atomlaphele esitoksini ngaleso sizathu lijaji Mavuso libeze licitha ngelifastelo isicelo semsolwa sekutokela ngephandle lithe selicethile lijaji kufula sijubo salo seliphumile enkantolo umsolwa sakhulumisana nebameli bakhe etisebenti eminyango ecinzatimilo ikakhulu telihlangosi letimo yetibucayi rapid response unit tibese tatisa tihlobo temsolwa ukuthi sekucile inkantolo asale bahamba letinye tihlobo temsolwa tiphumele ngephandle kodwa letinye tichubekile tema ngekhatsi enkantolo letihlobo temsolwa tikhombishisekele kumvusela umsolwa ubese uyativusela watshela ukuthi utakuba kahle letihlobo takhe tivakele tithi ngiloko betikase tikufuna hlase tiphumela ngephandle umbuso wokazi umyelwe ngumshushisi Mandla Dlamini lovele ovisinde abashushisi kuleli bese umsolwa abekathi amelelwe ngummeli wakhe Sibusiso Nhlabathi lobikako umfortune dlanga Mandla ngisenkantolo lenkulu
Kunati temidlalo umphathi wenkampani ye-Esric Zamangcobo uthi nangabe tinhlangano temidlalo tidlala kahle emidlalweni nalamanye emave kuyabakhuthaza abatinkampani ukuthi bafake imali kuleto temidlalo. Ngcobo bekakhuluma emcimbini wehlomelisa labahlabene emidlalweni wama-darts lobesekelwe ngetimali yinkampani ye-Esric Esbane Hotel. Kanti kuletinye litiko letemidlalo selimemetele ukuthi inkhundla yesive yakasomhlolo seyivuliwe ngalokusemthethweni ukuthi ingasebenziswa betemidlalo ngekwehlukana kwawo. Embikweni lethumelelwe betindzaba lenkhundla itawubita imali lengu-10,000 emalangeni lelithi lelitiko itawusita ukuthi inakekeleke lenkhundla yesive. Lelitiko ligcizelele ukuthi somhlolo yinkhundla yesive lekhonela kuthuthukisa temidlalo nemakhono eMaswati kungako batimisele ukuthi tinkhundla tesive tivulelwe wona eMaswati. Lelitiko libonge kubeketela kwawo eMaswati kusalungiswa lenkhundla yabonga nahulumende wembube ngekwesekela ngetimali lomsebenzi. Lenkhundla yesive beyivalwe ngeminyaka ya 2018 nayicala kulungiswa. Asikutibuya ka-rugby, inhlangano yemidlalo we-rugby kuleli seyisukumise imidlalo yebantfwana labangemantfombatane letawatiwa ngele rugby raise and play. Mengameli wenhlangano yalomdlalo Bandile Vilakati uthi inhloso yalolu hlelo kufundzisa abantwana ngalomdlalo kusuka etikolweni. Uthi batawuhambela tikolo kanye nama-centers alomdlalo lakhona eveni. Bafake lona livangeli lelitogcina lisita kukhulisa tinombolo tabomake labadlala alomdlalo eveni. Asikengele to temidlalo siyatiphetha sasalikhefu nasibuya sidabe sikhulumisana naFikile Shongwe losuka ehhovisini leliphini laNdvunankhulu.
There is an industry that spends over $1 million an hour on advertising, and they're constantly looking for younger and newer consumers. Do you know why? Because they know that their product kills up to half of its users. We are talking about the tobacco industry today, and our expert is Simone Sinclair. Welcome, Simone. So we know that there are no safe tobacco products, right? Whether it's shisha, chewing tobacco, rolled cigarettes. So how is it that the tobacco industry is succeeding in selling us death and destruction continuously?
Great question. The tobacco industry is well aware that their products kill around 8 million people globally every year. To sustain their business, they must continuously recruit new users to replace those who die from using their products. And because their products are so harmful, they must do everything they can to make them attractive, especially to young people. One of their biggest tactics is flavors. If you think about it, tobacco on its own is harsh and unappealing, but when you add mint, mango, bubblegum, or vanilla, they seem less dangerous. Flavors are meant to hook you and then keep you addicted. This is not by accident, this is by design. Research shows that flavors are one of the main reasons that children and young people start using nicotine and tobacco products. And once they start, they become addicted quickly.
So just like flavors, there is research that shows packaging can attract consumers to products, right? How does the tobacco and nicotine industry use packaging to attract younger and younger people and women especially?
Tobacco companies use minimalist designs and bright colors to make their products look premium or even clean. But as you mentioned, there's no such thing as a safe tobacco product. Let's take slim cigarettes, for example. These are cigarettes that are designed with narrower dimensions and traditionally marketed to women. They're often associated with sophistication and elegance and are wrongly perceived to be less dangerous. But in reality, they pose comparable risks to regular cigarettes. Then if we look at the more recent nicotine products, sleek, colorful, and high-tech. To be clear, when we're talking about nicotine products, the most common is e-cigarettes, also known as vapes. E-cigarettes are designed to look like USB sticks, lipsticks, and stylish gadgets, which are easy to disguise and conceal from parents and teachers, which is particularly concerning when it comes to children and young people.
So we know that most people who consume tobacco products know that it is harming their body, but let's go over it again. How exactly does tobacco impact our body?
Tobacco use harms nearly every organ of the body. It causes heart disease, respiratory conditions, and over 20 types of cancer, including lung cancer. Tobacco is a major risk factor for non-communicable diseases and premature death. But the good news is that the benefits of quitting can be felt almost immediately. Within 20 minutes, blood pressure and heart rate drop. Within 2 to 12 weeks, lung function and circulation improves. Within a year, the risk of heart disease is cut in half. And over time, the risk of tobacco-related diseases decreases dramatically.
Another interesting fact here is the plain packaging or graphic warnings that you often see on cigarette boxes. That's actually a result of the work that WHO and partners have done to bring in those policies to inform consumers about the dangers of tobacco. So let's talk about another tactic, and that's advertising. You see tobacco advertising in music concerts and sports events. Talk to us about that.
Exactly. The marketing budget of big tobacco is larger than the GDP of some countries. They spend tens of billions of dollars every year to hide the truth that tobacco kills. They use social media influencers, music festivals, and giveaways to promote their harmful and addictive products. They use cartoon-like branding and sleek advertising to attract young users. And you'll notice in some stores they place nicotine in tobacco products near candy, which leads children to believe that they are innocent or even exciting.
Simone, how can public health agencies like WHO stand up to the tobacco industry, which seems to have massive resources, right?
Science, evidence, and awareness is key. The more people know about these tricks, the less effective they become. We need to ensure that people are aware of just how harmful tobacco products are and how they destroy families and lives. WHO and countries are working together to put in place public health policies, things like smoke-free public places, bans on advertising, making products less affordable by introducing taxes, and putting on graphic images and health warnings on product packaging. And latest data show that more than 5 billion people around the world are protected by at least one of these measures. This is a result of strong and decisive regulatory action. As a consumer, don't be fooled. If nicotine or tobacco products look fun, tasty, or trendy, they're designed that way to hook you. So spread the word and support policies that protect public health.
Thank you, Simone. That was Science in 5 today. Until next time, then, stay safe, stay healthy, and stick with science.
Hello to all the viewers of Eswatini TV in the kingdom and beyond. Eswatini TV is regulated by the Eswatini Communications Commission through the Broadcasting Code and Broadcasting Guidelines. Under these instruments, the station commits to broadcasting information and news that have been fact-checked, programs and content in respectful language with no elements of hate speech, violence or sexual activity. If you hear any unsuitable content on this channel, you have a right to voice your complaints with the station management. Should you not be satisfied with the response or action taken, you can escalate your matter to the Communications Commission at PO Box 7811 Mbabane. Call 2406 7000 or send an email to info@esccom.org.za. For more information, visit www.esccom.org.za.
kude lesinye isikhathi ngaphandle kwalesi
abaresearche bafunze.
being risky means ukuthi nalokuwa kwayo kulula
nathi kufuna senze ukukhicita lokusembili.
When you choose your adventures, you do so with an open heart and a desire for the unexpected. You embark on journeys to discover new worlds full of wonder. You choose a path to awaken your senses, a world to make you look up and realize just how inspiring this life can be. Arrive and awaken your heart. Explore life in ways only thought possible in your dreams. Discover just how far you go to expand your understanding of life's greatest mysteries. There's just one place on this planet with so much to offer. Now is the time for you to have the royal experience.
Asimze sinemukele sibonga kakhulu ukuthi solo nihlele nathi lo mhla ekseni sesinaye lapha fikile shongo losuka ehofisini leliphina Ndvunankulu. She's the Disability Programs Manager khona. Sifuna ukukhuluma ngabantu njengama skills bambu labakhubatekile labanawo. Simbonile lomunye umfundzi we-BSA Training Center eTindzabeni iTolo. Umfundzi ke lona lo wakhe i-wheelchair manje lenema technologies usayakha bayachubeka bayakha nebalingani bakhe. Sifuna ukuva nje ukuthi vele even lonke banganani labakhona labanye labanemakhono lafana nalomfundzi lona. Siyathi ukuthi bakhona labanye labangabona emehlweni abakhubateke ngabona emehlweni kepha bayakhona kwenda imisebenzi yetandla. Ngabe vele lihhovisi liphina Ndvunankulu libasekela kanjani nokuthi kumcwanga nani vele ukuthi basekelwe kude ema skills abo atawuba sharpened. Sikuvusele makesho ngisaba ngisube nasi lo mhla ekseni. Simbonile umfundzi lana wende involve lenhle kakhulu, but ngiyakholwa ukuthi bakhona labanye labanengi labane makhono etandla. Ngabe vele kuba le yanganani makesho ukuthi vele labo labana lamakhono ukuthi nibasekele nebachoshisa nangeti imali futhi ukuthi bachubeke babone lokho labakhicitako kuba impumelelo.
Ngiyabonga Lulu, ngivusele nakumbukele ekhaya. Uteka yona nje lenzaba yema skills yebantfu laba actually yebantfu bonke vele, ngoba mawukhumbula kahle kune agenda 2030 lo teka tindzaba te inclusive economy aphinza khulumise tona tindzaba te makhono ne tekuceceshwa etindzabeni temakhono lesithi pheceleti motivate. Iphindze futhi kube khona i National Development Plan lekhulumisa tona tindzaba te unemployment ne youth. Bese ke kuthi ka office leliphina Ndvunankulu sinayo le Eswatini National Disability Plan of Action lenayo i-thematic area leteka tindzaba te access to skills and labor market for bantu abakhubatekile. So lihhovisi leliphina Ndvunankulu likukhuthatela kakhulu lokho. Utawukhumbula ukuthi kuke kwaba ne-Job and Entrepreneurship Expo for bona abantu labakhubatekile, kwaba ne-Music and Art Festival lapho khona nakhona si-showcase wona ama-skills abo. Lokhu lebe sikubona nje kwaka BSA nako siyakubonga because bantu labakhubatekile akusho ukuthi abakhoni, lokukhubateka akusho ukuthi kungakhoni. Lokukhubateka kukhubateka nje, but bayakhona kwenta tintfo letinengi. Uyamangala ngaleli langa nasithi abete balethe tintfo tabo. Labanye bathunga ticathulo, labanye bakha tikhwama, labanye bakha nje imisebenzi yetandla, labanye ma skills abo asekulimeni. Ngiko nje lihhovisi leliphina Ndvunankulu likusekela kakhulu tindzaba ukuthi kube nema livelihoods. Liyawa supporta vele bantu abakhubatekile bayalima nabo, bayaniketwa lithuba lokuthi balime. Lo wakhe nje le wheelchair naye bekanikwe lithuba lokuthi akahambe ayoceceshwa kuwo wona lama skills, ngobe bantu labakhubatekile kukhona njengakuwo bonke bantfu, kukhona labatawuhamba babe bo professor, bahambe the skills, I mean the academic cadre. Kube khona labatawuvele bangacedzi nesikolo, njengathishela nje loke wafundzisa nabo kweThembeni Special School lapho khona bekathi angaba na 17 years sesiyambona ukuthi lo akalungeli kuhamba lendlela yekuthabile esikolweni. Utawuphuma ke naye ofundzela lamakhono akhona nje lamakhono kamanzini sinabo bokwelulameni bo MITC. Nasesteki nakhona bayatraina, nasenhlangano ikhona ke leya ka Ministry of Labour i-Vocational and Rehabilitation Center lapho khona bafundzela khona. Ubuteke indzaba yedata. Indzaba yedata vele Lulu sisashoda lapho. Kepha siyethemba ukuthi lo nyaka indzaba yedata kubantu labakhubatekile ngeke kube yi-issue, ngobe nyalo nje na ungangibuta ukuthi ingabe vele labafundzela sengithi commerce nje, Ministry of Commerce ufuna abantu for kwente maybe leyo import industry lapho khona batona export industry lapho khona batothengisa khona te leather. Angeke ngibe nayo leyo data namuhla. noma ngabe bafuna i-handcraft kumbe kuyiswa kuphi kulelo live la kuyobukhangiswa khona nginte kahle leyo data kepha ngiyati ukuthi kunabani kuphi kepha nje baningi abantu labathinini ngoba nawubuka kwelulwameni uyakhicita kuna ezulwini handcraft center nayo uyakhicita kunalele ngisho ke enhlangano nayo iyakhicita kuna malcans ke bona bayalima bangala ka agriculture kuma skills bayalima siyambona na youth council nayo uyaba involve abantu labakhubatekile kuma projects abo uyaba trainer nabo solo kutama kuliwa nenzaba ye unemployment ku youth nabathi ke i-youth bafaka nalaba labakhubatekile lolu.
Yeah, speaking of unemployment nje kaningi simove umhlonisha DPM emayifikile lokuthi anxuse inkampani organizations ukuthi bababone nabo abantu abakhubatekile babafaka emisebenzini babafaka etikhundleni babafaka nasemabhodini ngabe lokho sesokhona imehluko yakubona enikwendeka.
Angibonge lolu mhlonisha uneliphupho vele lekuthi lokho ufise kangakanani sikube manje ngabe sekwendekile kuyendeka kepha ngingasho ukuthi leli galelo lihamba kancane njengoba nje nyalo lengibatiko labasemabhodini bangu-3 kunaka arts and culture that is ministry ka sport kuna ministry of health recently umthethe munye kuna ishek naye umthethe lo sebhodini kucashwa ke cha bayacashwa siyababona bacashwa kuna city council nje Lubombe Stegi bamcashile noma ukubhodi yabo noma ucashiwe but nje they have one nakhona bese kuba khona tinkampani bo SEC khona lo senhlangano nje labamcashile civil service ke na TSC bebavele babacasha vele bona banayo inangu e-learning bebamabacasha thishela na uphume kuleyo tertiary automatically uyacasheka just like anyone nangala ka civil service nabo sinabo lama office lesibakhanzako labaqashiwe sinayo nje economist lonayo i-physical impairment sinaye na director ka housing physical impairment ukhona lomnyele ngimithile ka FO bakhona la emahhovisi kwethu nje kubasekela kunabo Pick and Pay nema private sectors like Nedbank babaqashile siyakubona lokho siyabona ukuthi nabo bangasifakazela siyafisa kangakanani singalenye ngabake basho nje ukuthi casha umuntu lokhubatekile kanjani li office leliphini landvuna nkulu nabo ngicabanga ngathi licashe 4 noma 5 if I'm not mistaken kuna 2 eMangayane kuna 2 lakithi shothi bang 4 kuna 2 la headquarters longaboni nalongeva nalabangeboni bakhona eMangayane elderly home bese kuba khona lone albinism siyababona bayasebenta and asikhali lutho siyababona nemasisenda imihlangano nje ukhona ku department yami uyalibona leligalelo lakhe ukuthi lo muntu kube wayinithola le opportunity very intelligent.
Ngiyafakazela makesho ngona uthi vele bakhuthele akukhona nje sese okanhlangeni faka kamanzini kumatiko khubateke ngingaboni kena but nje uchuba ibusiness yakhe yakwakha amapolishi tinsipho insipho kwasha teacher kunengila kwendako but akaboni so ngiyavumelana na uthi babakhuthele futhi lamakhono banawo ingabe nje kena sasibuka ke ama challenges noma ama barriers labaye bahlangabetene nawo mhlambe kule industry nje lasabayingenele le emsebenzi.
Ngicabanga ukuthi lulu ema challenges yekuqala nje i-attitudinal barrier whereby noma mina ngitemukele kwani ngokuthi ngi-competitive ngingithishela noma sengine degree ngifuna kuyocompete nawe lulu la kupost lela your attitude ngiyo lo tongenta nami ngitivele ukuthi uyati vele ngathi angiqualify kubala no matter how ngiqualify na kulama skills ke uthi telo munye une albinism besibite bomake nje sibakhulumisa wakhuluma indzaba ukuthi uthengisa pelepele uke wathi uyothengisa lo pelepele babesa basamthenga but bebamodile sebabuka lokuthuphekwa ngibani So that's an attitudinal barrier lekhona lesingeke siyithini lekufuneka ukuthi every day siyikhulumisa indzaba ye-capacity building yekufunza kwemukela abantu labakhubatekile. Lenye lekhona ngile accessibility to infrastructure lokho kokuthi infrastructure yethu, environment yethu ayisi accessible. Nokube ngifuna kuyothengisa leyo pelepele wami ngi-wheelchair, ibhasi lengidayigibela ngisuke eNgutseni ngiyabekisa kude lele ngangigibeda kusuke eNgutseni kuyawumela ngigcine ngicasha imoto kuze kuthi ngibeke le la kumele ngiye khona. So lama issues la ngo access to the environment ne issue yema reasonable accommodations kuthi ema employers lamanye asadzinga vele lokufundziswa kokuthi phela umuntu lokhubatekile udzinga ema reasonable accommodations. Asengibekise nje kungicasha ngibe nguthishela ngingeva ungifake esikolweni lapho khona beva khona ngiyayidzinga le sign language interpreter mina ngitobo khona kuhlanganyela nabothishela nabona labantwana ukuthi bagcine bangivile. So basically ngilawo lama challenges la khona nje vele ukuthi nale market yabo ibehle vele kuba nayo ibarrier ukuthi sengikhicitile ku up to standard in vele ukuthi ngingakumikisa nami kulamanye emashow la khona ukuthi nami ngikhangise ngako. So there is a lot vele lesisathe ukuthi sikwende sitawuchubeka sifundzise ngobe vele kufunza ngiyona mpilo yekushintsha umuntu. Singeke sithule sithi ayi lama attitudes nalama letingcinamba lesinato tisetulu kakhulu kepha nasitawuchubeka siyethemba ngobe nawubuka lama attitudinal barriers nangabe bakhona ke emhlangeni bakhona kuya nasengcwaleni ngwenyama ifike bavusele kusho kona ukuthi lama attitudinal barriers sekatawehla vele ngobe umnikati wabo uyabanakekela uyababona uyaba attenda. So ngiko lele sithi sekayehla nemaswati nawo naye loyo lobeka ne-attitude towards persons with disabilities ngicabanga ukuthi utawubona naye it's a process kona kudilisha nema-attitudes but nje siyethemba silive ukuthi sitawugcina sifikile. I-inclusion it's a process nalamave la icala embili kunathi sisacathuda thine solo kayafundzisana namhlanje ngingako nje kuba netifundo letiba khona.
Okay, ngiyavana simakhulu isikhathi sakho. Fikile shongo loyo ngu-Disability Programs Manager ehhovisini leliphini landvunankulu besifuna ukuva nje ukuthi ingabe vele anganani makhono bamfana labakhubatekile laba nawo lapha ngaphandle nje baveta nje ukuthi banawo makhono bayasebenza ngalokhulu kutikhandla futhi impela bayacasha nasemisebenzini bayafungena nasemabhodini sekuthi ke kuba khona ke vele leto dinkinga labahlangabetana nato lavetako fikile ukuthi solo ikhona leyo attitude kumaswati mangabe nje atobona ukuthi basitwa ngomuntu lokhubatekile kuba khona lokho kuthwala kepha ke bayethemba ukuthi batakulungisa ngekuhamba kwesikhathi. Sithathe ikhefu sithabe netindzaba desingisi.
To all the viewers of Eswatini TV in the kingdom and beyond. Eswatini TV is regulated by the Eswatini Communications Commission through the Broadcasting Code and Broadcasting Guidelines. Under these instruments, the station commits to broadcasting information and news that have been fact-checked, programs and content in respectful language with no elements of hate speech, violence or sexual activity. If you hear any unsuitable content on this channel, you have a right to voice your complaints with the station management. Should you not be satisfied with the response or action taken, you can escalate your matter to the Communications Commission at PO Box 7811 Babani. Call 2406 7000 or send an email to info@esccom.org.za. For more information, visit www.esccom.org.za.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. The World Government Summit got underway yesterday in Dubai in the United Arab Emirates. Speaking on behalf of Africa, Ethiopian President reminded world leaders that Africa is looking for partnerships, not donations. The Prime Minister of the Kingdom, His Excellency Russell Dlamini, represented His Majesty King Mswati III during the summit.
The World Government Summit in Dubai in the United Arab Emirates was officially opened by the chairman of the World Government Summit, who is the Minister of Cabinet Affairs in the UAE, His Excellency Mohammed Al-Gehawi, who encouraged leaders to discuss the day's agenda openly and candidly. Ethiopian president seems to have been waiting for that invitation because he kept no stone unturned when he accused rich nations of disregarding Africa's growth. Instead, rich countries look for what they can benefit from Africa. He says Africa now wants to work with countries she can trust.
The first one is trust. I believe earlier today, the CEOs of IBM and Ericsson mentioned about trust, rightly so. In our case, beyond development prosperity, we believe that we have to address issues related to trust and dependability in forging our collective aspiration. Need sets of emerging issues ranging from artificial intelligence to mega infrastructure and biotech can only be impactful if they are anchored in understanding and rooted in trust. For too long, African countries have navigated relationships that are disappointingly and sometimes frustratingly asymmetrical and lopsided.
Other topics that were discussed on the first day included the power of AI and how countries can utilize AI to drive economic development. Estonian president says AI should not be used as a weapon of war. His Excellency the Right Honorable Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Eswatini, Russell Dlamini, was representing His Majesty King Mswati III during the official opening. The meeting is expected to continue on Wednesday. Reporting, I am LinkedIn Kule, Dubai.
The Prime Minister Russell Dlamini has informed world leaders that the tourism sector is one of the sectors that drive economic growth in Eswatini. The Prime Minister was speaking alongside other panelists during a session that was focusing on tourism on the sidelines of the ongoing World Summit, which is underway in the United Arab Emirates.
After representing His Majesty King Mswati III during the official opening of the World Government Summit here in Dubai in the United Arab Emirates, the Prime Minister, His Excellency Russell Dlamini, attended a session which was focusing on the future of tourism and creativity. The Prime Minister was joined by his counterpart from the Commonwealth of Dominica, Dr. Rosenveld, His Excellency Francisco Calbuati, the Vice Prime Minister of the Republic of Timor-Leste, and the incumbent Minister of Tourism. On the subject, is tourism still a government priority? The Prime Minister informed the meeting that in Eswatini, tourism is still a very important sector. He says tourism is one of the sectors which drive the economy of the kingdom. The Prime Minister says Eswatini saw an increase in the number of tourists who visited the country last year compared to 2024, which is testament that the tourism sector is thriving, although there's room for growth.
First of all, we understand the vulnerabilities that we have to climate change in Eswatini. We have included mitigation measures in our nationally determined contribution. We were actually the first country to integrate disaster risk management in the NDC. And we were happy actually to get an award for that. But this is just for our own protection. And so we integrate disaster risk management into our policies. I can give an example that because tourism is also anchored in our beautiful scenery and also in conservation of wildlife and biodiversity. So we have to ensure that we protect that nature that we have so that it can be seen not only by the current generation but also by future generations. Eswatini tourism is no longer a periphery industry. It's now in the core of revenue generation for the country. And we've intended to and actually exceeded pre-COVID numbers in that we've actually now exceeded the numbers of tourists that visited the country.
In terms of legislation around conservation and climate change, the Premier says Eswatini is one of the countries with a strong conservation legislation, which are part of Eswatini's national determinant contributions. Indeed, last year Eswatini recorded for the first time over 1 million visitors, which was an increase of 7.5% when compared to the number of tourists who visited the country in 2024. The Ngwenya border was the busiest port of entry. Reporting, I'm LinkedIn Kule in Dubai.
The Prime Minister, His Excellency Rasool Dlamini, says true regional progress in the health landscape demands that countries move beyond national averages to focus on equity, ensuring that every individual in every community has fair and equitable access to affordable quality care. The Premier has said this when officially opening the 76th ECSA-HC Health Ministers Conference at the Happy Valley Hotel, where he was represented by the DPM, Honourable Thuli Dladla. The Premier says a system that leaves people behind is not a strong one.
In this meeting, the Prime Minister, His Excellency Rasool Dlamini, was represented by the DPM, Honourable Thuli Dladla. The meeting is held under the theme Enhancing Health Systems for Equity, Resilience and Sustainability. The Premier says this is an urgent call to action and a cornerstone of the region's shared vision for a healthier future.
The progress, and true progress for that matter, demands that we move beyond national averages to focus on equity, ensuring that every individual in every community has fair and just access to quality care. A system that leaves its citizens behind is not a strong system. Our regional platform is indispensable for harnessing collective wisdom to close these gaps and build systems that serve all our people without exception.
The Honourable Minister of Health, Mduduzi Matsebula, says this conference is a platform for exploring innovative solutions to regional health challenges that have tested the resilience of regional health systems.
We meet at a time when our health systems face complex, interconnected pressures. Health financing and workforce constraints, climate-related shocks, health security threats, and the rising burden of non-communicable diseases alongside persistent infectious diseases.
This meeting brings together health ministers from across East, Central, and Southern Africa, along with senior policymakers, researchers, and leaders from the global health institutions to address shared priorities in health. Eswatini stands to benefit immensely from this week-long conference as it is pulling all stops to revive its health sector. Reporting is Temgosi Mavimbela with Mbendulo Kumbi and Skumbuzo Dlamini Ezulwini.
African countries should implement health improvement plans to avoid losing lives, especially pregnant women and children. This was stated by former Tanzanian President Jakaya Kikwete during a discussion at the Health Ministers meeting of East, Central and Southern African countries, where he was the main speaker.
Former President of Tanzania Jakaya Kikwete led Tanzania from 2005 to 2015 and has attended a conference to share insights on how countries can improve health outcomes. He improved different sectors during his presidency that made Tanzania a relatively stable country when compared to other nations. Kikwete stresses that countries should not hesitate to allocate funds to healthcare, especially maternity services.
When we look at
the Human Development Report, the World Bank Human Development Report, or the WHO report. Unfortunately, Africa, when you look at the health indicators, the major health indicators, yes, in most of these indicators, Africa is not doing well. Africa shares an unfair burden of the health challenges. I think that's the best word, the best word to do. So in one area where we have a big problem is high maternal and child mortality. It is critical, therefore, to give special attention to maternal health, maternal mortality, to how to address maternal mortality. And the point we are saying is, when a woman gets pregnant, she has fallen sick. No, it's not a disease. It's a normal cycle in life, yes. And therefore, she should not die.
The former president is expected to participate in the conference proceedings until the final day. Reporting Mpendulo Kumbi and Iskumbuzo Dlamini in Zulwini.
East, Central and Southern African countries should not only make verbal and paper commitments, but also implement them to ensure that health services reach all people are equitable and sustainable. This was stated by the Director General of the East, Central and Southern Africa Health Community, Dr. Ntuli Kapolongwe, during the opening of the Health Ministers' meeting.
The 76th Conference of Health Ministers of East, Central and Southern Africa is held under the theme Enhancing Health Systems for Equity, Resilience and Sustainability. The event will continue until the 5th of this month and is attended by representatives from member states, development partners and other stakeholders. Dr. Kapolongwe emphasized the need for countries to work together to address health challenges and prevent disease outbreaks.
As AUD and NEPAD, you can count on us. You can count on us as a preferred partner, as a determined partner, and we'll work hand in hand with you to realize the outcomes of these meetings and indeed this ministers' conference. Government, private sector, civil society, academia, and all strategic sectors of society can and must transform health systems.
Dr. Lulriek, Director of Southern Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, noted that there is still more work to be done to improve health outcomes and rectifying some health commitments made by the African Union.
Africa must be able to protect Africans at their speed and also at their skills based on evidence, based on coordinations and our shared responsibility. This is not rhetoric. It is practical necessity.
Dr. Susan Tembo emphasizes that countries should prioritize health funding to avoid facing similar challenges experienced during the COVID-19 pandemic.
To promote health, we must respond decisively to climate change and address the determinants of health through cross-sector policies. To provide health, we must advance the primary healthcare approach, strengthen essential health system capacities for universal health coverage.
The African Union has developed new plans to improve health outcomes on the continent, which will be discussed at the upcoming African Union Summit. Reporting Pendulo Kumbi and Skumbuzo Dlamini in Zulwini.
The First National Bank has invested over 1.5 million amalangeni in corporate social investment in the Fuel Cashback Rewards Initiative. This has been shared by the Chief Executive Thokozani Dlamini during the FNB Press Play meeting, which was meant to shed light on the work of the bank to the media.
The chief executive says over 35,000 customers benefited from the over 1.5 million emalangeni.
Ngiyajabula kumemetela ukuthi eminyakeni lo endlulile wa 2025 libhange libuyisele emva emakhasimendeni alo imali lendlulako ku 1.5 million ngesihlelo lethu lwema fuel cashback rewards. Le mali lena ke ibiyele emakhasimendeni ethu lendlulako ku 35,000 lokukhombisa ukukhula etinongolweni teminyaka wa 2024.
Chantel Litla, Executive Head of Commercial Banking, says a lot is being done to support small and medium enterprises.
So when we started off with sport lending, it was 250,000, which our SME clients can access without providing any information. We then increased it to 500,000, and there are plans to increase it even further.
Editors were also given a chance to pose questions on the work done by the bank.
We see in South Africa, banks, are doing a lot in terms of offering scholarships, university scholarships. What's the plan of the bank in future to be able to inject into these young people?
Indaba ye-data protection. So ngike ngabona lapha ukuthi sekunetintfo letenteka la online sekuyavela nje ama-accounts apublishwe sibone ukuthi so and so unama millions.
In his responses, the FNB chief executive says they continue to look for ways to support the youth in the country, and that includes partnering with stakeholders to support education. He further stated that they are also working with ESCOM to ensure data protection for their clients at all times. Graduate trainees from different media houses, including Eswatini TV, were honored during the event. Reporting, Nelson Langamandla, Smova Shongwe, Malkens.
The Eswatini Sugar has presented a total of 170,000 Malangeni in corporate social investment donations, signaling a bold stand for sustainable and inclusive impact. The donations were made by the Chief Executive Officer Banele Nyamane to the Eswatini Electricity Company, Earth Hour, the Rotary Club of Mbabane, and the Eswatini Schools Competition Partners, dedicated to building a greener, healthier, and more empowered Eswatini.
As aligned with our CSI interest, we felt it prudent to join hands with EEC and the rest of the world in the big switch off by donating 50,000 Malangeni towards the Earth Hour commemoration. For several years now, we have contributed towards the commendable work done by the Rotary Club of Mbabane through its medical and dental health outreach program, which brings together teams of dedicated doctors and health professionals to provide much-needed services to children and communities in remote parts of the country. This year's outreach takes place in Zevane in March, and we are making a contribution of 70,000 towards the acquisition of a mobile dental unit to assist the teams to bring essential care closer to our communities and ensure that quality oral health is not a privilege but accessible to all. It gives us pleasure to announce a contribution of 50,000 Malangeni towards this year's National Schools Athletics Competition.
Different entities that received the donation had this to say.
We appreciate this donation and believe that it will take us a long way. Believe that the Eswatini Sugar Association will also participate in the upcoming events.
We normally get doctors who volunteer, doctors from overseas, as well as local people who work in South Africa as doctors. They come in and assist us in servicing our communities that are not fortunate.
On behalf of the Ministry of Education and Training, we applaud your support, which has continued over many years. Though there has been disturbances, we applaud the continuity, and we also pray that this partnership and this sponsorship will never ever stop.
The Chief Executive Officer said this year, Eswatini Sugar has contributed 1.7 million emalangeni in corporate social investment. Reporting, Nelson Langamandla, Vominkosi Nzinisa, Mbabane.
News from the High Court. The High Court bench has ruled that the applicants who sought to stop the government from bringing prisoners from the United States of America into the country do not have the authority to bring the matter before the court, as they lack locus standi. Journalist Fortune Langamandla compiled the following report on this matter, as well as other cases heard in the High Court.
The application seeking to stop government from bringing into the country prisoners convicted of serious crimes in the United States of America has failed at the High Court. The matter was brought by the Eswatini Litigation Center, lawyer Mzwandile Masuku, the Eswatini Rural Women's Assembly, and Melus Melani. The case was heard by High Court judges Titus Mlangeni, Ticheme Dlamini, and Bonkosi Magagula. In the judgment, the court ruled that the applicants did not have a direct interest in the matter and therefore lacked the legal standing to bring the case before the court. The judges held that the applicants did not have local standing in judicial to act on behalf of other people or eMaswati. The court further ruled that the matter arose from an agreement between the government of Eswatini and the United States of America, but the applicant failed to produce the agreement for the court to properly consider it. The judges also noted that there is no law empowering the applicant to compel the Prime Minister to disclose the agreement relating to the transfer of the prisoners. The court further pointed out that the United States of America was not cited as a part to the case, yet the applicants were seeking an order that the prisoners be returned there. The judges dismissed the application and made no order to cost. So far, Eswatini has accepted 2 batches of deportees from the United States of America, 5 in July 2025 and 10 in October 2025. One of the deportees has since been repatriated to Jamaica. Government was represented by lawyers from the Office of the Attorney General, while the applicants were represented by private attorneys. Meanwhile, at the High Court, the Africa Evangelical Church AEC has approached the High Court seeking an interdict against a group accused of attempting to take over its Mankayane branch. The applicant is AEC chairperson Meshach Xolan Dladla. Dladla tells the court that the members of Mankayane Church Committee want to break away from the church and rename the Mankayane branch to New Life Church. He says the group has influenced some congregants to defect and has attempted to register the new church. He says they want to use the Kutokozen church premises as their own. Lada explains that the church building was constructed on land donated for the Africa Evangelical Church and that the matter is known by Tutfusini Inner Council. He says tensions arose after the suspension of Pastor Mfundo Dube, with some members opposing the decision. Lada pleads with the court to grant an interdict, warning that failure to do so will disrupt church services and affect congregants. At the time of compiling this report, the matter was still pending in court, with the respondents yet to respond. In another matter, the High Court has dismissed a bail application by businessman Zweli Dlamini, who is accused of plotting to attack eMaswati attending the Inkwala ceremony last year. Dlamini was arrested in December 2025 and charged under Suppression of Terrorism Act after allegedly being found in possession of firearms, ammunition, and explosives. The Crown opposed his bail application. High Court Judge Justice Mavuso ruled that the accused poses a flight risk because he holds dual citizenship of Eswatini and South Africa. He says the Eswatini constitution does not recognize dual citizenship. The judge says this raises concerns about compliance with bail conditions and the possibility of the accused fleeing to South Africa using informal border crossings. The judge further ruled that even strict bail conditions will not be sufficient to prevent him from absconding trial. Judge Mavuso dismissed the application, adding that arrangements could be made for the accused to receive medical care while in custody. The Crown is represented by Prosecutor Mandla Dlamini, while the accused is represented by his lawyer Sibusiso Nhlabathi. Reporting Fortune Dlanga Mandla, High Court.
In international news, in Kyiv, residents endure daily power outages due to relentless Russian strikes, making it difficult to cook or heat homes. These attacks have severely damaged Ukraine's power grid and infrastructure, including residential buildings and schools. NATO chief Mark Rutte visited Kyiv to express support, asserting that Russia's actions show a lack of commitment to peace. President Zelensky is preparing for talks with Russian negotiators in Abu Dhabi, emphasizing the need for security guarantees from Western partners.
On the edge of the Ukrainian capital, this mother of two lines up for a hot soup with her 18-month-old son bundled up against the biting cold. Once again, overnight Russian strikes left her apartment building without power as nighttime temperatures dropped to -20 Celsius.
I am not the only one like this in the country right now. All day long there is no electricity, no way to cook for the kids. Pretty much everyone is in this situation.
The heavy barrages have left Ukraine's grid and power stations in their worst state since the war began. And it's a vicious cycle, because as soon as crews restore heating, Russia strikes again, also damaging residential buildings, kindergartens, schools. A strategy to wear out ordinary Ukrainians, which seems to be working.
The war isn't going away, and our nervous systems are exhausted. We live here, so we've gotten used to it after 4 years of war.
NATO chief Mark Rutte said the attack signaled that Russia was not serious about wanting peace. He was in Kyiv Tuesday as a show of support, nearly 4 years since Moscow launched its full-scale invasion. President Volodymyr Zelensky said Ukraine's negotiating team would adjust accordingly for talks with Russian negotiators planned Wednesday and Thursday in Abu Dhabi. He also stressed the importance of security guarantees from Ukraine's Western partners.
What Europeans be ready to do if Russia will attack us again? And what Americans will do, ready to do, they can do. The question is what they will be ready to do in the same case.
The Financial Times reported that Ukraine has agreed to a multi-tiered ceasefire enforcement plan with partners. That would involve a coordinated military response from Europe and the US to persistent Russian violations of any future agreement.
Israel has reopened the Rafah border crossing into Gaza, but movement remains tightly restricted, with only a dozen people allowed to enter and a small number of wounded evacuated to Egypt. While the reopening is seen as a key step in the ceasefire process, far fewer people crossed than expected, leaving thousands of patients still waiting for urgent medical evacuation. Egypt says its hospitals are ready to receive more Gazans as numbers are gradually increased.
Emotional scenes as Palestinians reunited with their loved ones. They're among the dozen people who were allowed to enter Gaza on Monday via the newly reopened Rafah crossing. They've been living in Egypt, separated by the conflict from their families in Gaza. The returnees said they were limited in what they could bring with them.
Everything is forbidden. Food, water, perfume. Nothing is allowed to enter Gaza. We haven't even been able to bring anything back to make our children happy.
Israeli troops seized the Rafah crossing in May 2024, and travel has been heavily restricted during the conflict. The main route in or out for Gaza's nearly 2 million residents. Reopening the crossing is a key step in the ceasefire process. But for now, the move has been limited. 50 people have been expected to cross in each direction on Monday, but ultimately only a handful of wounded Gazans were allowed to travel into Egypt for treatment. Around 20,000 people need similar help. At Al Amal Hospital in Khan Yunis alone, around 100 patients hope to be medically evacuated.
We appeal to the decision makers and the World Health Organization to hurry up and help us to arrange the travel of my son to complete his treatment. Every hour he remains here affects his health condition. We call on everyone to help him leave the Gaza Strip.
Around 150 hospitals in Egypt are ready to receive patients from Gaza. The number allowed to cross is expected to increase, with Israel and Egypt vetting those who wish to travel.
In our sports news, Eswatini Royal Insurance General Manager Zama Ngobo says as companies who are financially sponsoring sports in the country, it gives them encouragement when those sporting codes do well in international competitions. Ngobo was speaking during the prize presentation of best players during all darts competitions that are sponsored by Eswatini at Sibane Hotel.
Hosted their prize presentation event for the year 2025 under all tournaments that were sponsored by Eswatini. During the event, the general manager of the Eswatini Royal Insurance, Zama Ngobo, said coming back with medals in international events motivates them to continue pouring in more money.
But when we hear stories of success, even at regional level,
there can be no better encouragement for us as sponsors, which is too bad to support the sport. They must sponsor us. Once normally you see more in that sport, don't be surprised when sponsors disappear. There's no science. Proper governance, accountability. My election is not free and fair, right?
Samatabete from the Eswatini Sports Council says the benefits from the district support is now starting to be visible.
Again, the support again is also evident in the dominance ye association Yakatats Kuma National Sports Awards. Not only did they walk away with 2 category awards last year, but Lokfayalum is that out of Lama category, Lam 40 Nomama Kupulaga, in each one of them, the association Yakatats will come.
Sandekamkon thanked the support and shared the association's vision.
Moving forward, our focus is to expand that to more schools, continue nurturing young talent. Ultimately, our goal is to take Eswatini to reach the continental level and conquer Africa.
Winners were then awarded their prizes for their district started sponsoring darts from year 2010, and they had promised to continue even next year. Reporting for Eswatini TV Sports News, I am Patizo Msibi with Smova Shongwe, Sibane Sulwini.
And that marks the end of our news. Thank you for staying with us. It's 28 minutes before 8 o'clock. We go for an ad break and come back. We talk to the Eswatini Higher Education Council.
To all the viewers of Eswatini TV in the kingdom and beyond. Eswatini TV is regulated by the Eswatini Communications Commission through the Broadcasting Code and Broadcasting Guidelines. Under these instruments, the station commits to broadcasting information and news that have been fact-checked, programs and content in respectful language with no elements of hate speech, violence or sexual activity. If you hear any unsuitable content on this channel, you have a right to voice your complaints with the station management. Should you not be satisfied with the response or action taken, you can escalate your matter to the Communications Commission at PO Box 7811 Babani. Call 2406 7000 or send an email to info@esccom.org.za. For more information, visit www.esccom.org.za.
Kude lesinye isikhathi ngaphandle kwalesi.
Aba research bafunze.
Being risky means ukuthi nalokuwa kwayo kulula.
Nathi kufuna sende ukukhiqiza lokusembili.
When you choose your adventures, you do so with an open heart and a desire for the unexpected. You embark on journeys to discover new worlds, full of wonder. You choose a path to awaken your senses, a world to make you look up and realize just how inspiring this life can be. Arrive and awaken your heart. Explore life in ways only thought possible in your dreams. Discover just how far you go to expand your understanding of life's greatest mysteries. There's just one place on this planet with so much to offer. Now is the time for you to have the royal experience.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. We are now joined by Eswatini Higher Education Council's Quality Assurance Officer, Batfobile Dlamini. Last year, December, the council yakoka a list of credited and registered institutions in the country. Siwabona bogus institutions amashuma everywhere in the country. What standard, what requirements should institutions meet gokuthi bakhone gokuthi ba register universities? Very good morning and welcome, Kosi. Thank you for joining us, Lamplex. And I think it's an important topic, especially because it's the beginning of the year and students want to enroll in the different universities, colleges. So what are the accredited institutions that we have? But before we get into that, do you actually advise students to bende research? Because some students want to enroll in universities outside the country. Do you have a list here in my universities or website? Yini role nidlalago as the council go sit abafundi ukuthi bakhona when the research yabo?
Good morning and thank you so much. Yes, we do give guidance to students regarding institutions that are outside of Eswatini. Particularly, I would say we have different websites for the other regulators in the SADC region. So we usually share those, or when they come into the office, we go through the whole website and finding if the specific program that the student is inquiring about is actually accredited in the home country. Okay. So that is very important, that before you enroll with any higher education institution, whether in the country or outside the country, that you do that research.
Yeah, right. These bogus institutions in the country, because I saw a list of the accredited ones, Maningakulu. How many do they mushroom everywhere in the country?
With the mushrooming higher education institutions, I wouldn't really have a specific number, but they are there. And in most cases, they start in our malls, they start in, I would say, shady places, and they come up, and you find that students only come to us when they have already spent a lot of money in those institutions. Sometimes students do whistleblow about these institutions, and then we take action.
When they've paid money,
unfortunately,
lots and lots of money.
Yes.
So it's a business for them.
Yeah, it is a business. It is a business, unfortunately, despite that education is really a service that you provide to, it's a civic service rather than a money-making scheme. But unfortunately, a lot of people have found that it gives them a lot of money. So you would have the mushrooming unregistered higher education institutions.
Okay. So what happens to these institutions after the council has realized they are operating illegally?
In most cases, we do involve the law. But above that, we are also governed by the Higher Education Act, which stipulates different parameters of how we can deal with bogus institutions or institutions that are offering unaccredited programs. So usually, if they have not been registered, we do give them, there are penalties that they need to pay, Also, we involve the law, which is the police, to actually close down those higher education institutions. We do not only end there, we then publicize through public notices in our newspapers to say, to notify the public as well as students and parents that these institutions are not registered.
Okay, so after being closed down, are they allowed to follow the proper routes, register properly and reopen again?
Usually, most of the bogus ones, they, like I said before, they just come in for business. So you find that they fail to meet the requirements and the standards that have been set. So it's difficult for them to actually reopen. Some do try, but they find that it is just a high order to actually meet the standards of higher education.
So the students don't get their refunds?
In most cases, we do try get a mitigation plan for those institutions. Particularly if there had been students that are enrolled, we make sure that the students are not really, they are affected, but we find ways of how maybe they can enroll in institutions that are registered depending on the programs that they have been registered for. If that fails, again, the law comes in, we try that the institutions actually refund the students their monies, which is also quite difficult because if you are a mushrooming institution today, you could be in Babani, the next morning you're somewhere in Matapa, so it becomes a difficult situation, but we do try to assist the students that are affected.
Papers, and also you post on your social media pages just to alert students and parents as well, but there's still more mushrooming institutions.
Yes, they mushroom in other names. They mushroom in other locations.
Okay, so they register under business?
Yes, they register under business as businesses or corporate entities.
Yes. Okay, so what requirements should these institutions meet in order to be fully registered in the country?
I have mentioned that we have the Eswatini Higher Education Act of 2013. And also regulations of 2016, which actually guide institutions with applications. So an institution who wants to be a higher education institution, they have to go through a formal application. And then after the application, they go through a vigorous assessment process. And the assessment process is based on 13 standards. Quality assurance standards. These standards basically look at governance issues. They look at academics that will teach. They look at teaching resources, the infrastructure and financial sustainability of the institution. So those standards also have benchmarks that they need to meet. And only if an institution meets those standards, then they are granted registration. Registration happens in two ways. If perhaps we can see, let's say the institution meets 50% of, or 50 or 60% of the standards, then they can be given provisional registration, which basically helps them with meeting and continuing to improve, because quality assurance is a continuous thing. So we give them that 2 years to actually meet all the standards, and then they get full registration. Some meet the standards on the go and they get full registration.
Okay, do you have those that do not meet and still struggling even after the 2 years?
Yes, we do, and we assist them through capacity development, because it's higher education and there is always a lot of students that are graduating, so we do need the higher education institutions, but at the same time we need them to meet the standards. So we do go through capacity development, we do orientations for them and assist them. So it is a hand-holding exercise once an institution shows interest and they are willing to comply to the standards.
Okay, so what's the duration of the process then, the registering and everything?
It depends. It's a case-to-case situation, and it depends on how the institution actually is submitting and meeting the standards. So I would say from 6 months to a year for the process to be complete, but I wouldn't say complete because like I have said, quality assurance is a continuous activity, so we may find that we are meeting this, but there are some areas of improvement. that we require the institution.
So what happens to the qualifications of those that have graduated in these bogus universities? Are they employable? Will they need to start over?
Unfortunately, they do have to start over because if you do apply to a bogus institution, it means the certificate that you're carrying is basically unaccredited, meaning it is not recognized in the country and will not be recognized outside of the country. So even companies, we do give them the list as well as go through the list with them and provide orientation to their staff and prospective employees.
I'm just shocked that it gets to them graduating, because it takes like 2 to 3 years to graduate, even 4 years, without being recognized that they're bogus institution. So it does happen. It has happened.
It has happened, and but we, like I have said, that we then have to find a mitigation plan together with that institution, and
Okay. I know there's a long list of accredited universities, but just to give us an insight on some of the critical ones, the full higher education registered institutions.
We have, I think, a total of 35 higher education institutions, and about 12 of them are public universities, meaning they are government funded or government sponsored. So basically, in our list, we have both public and private higher education institutions. It could be universities, colleges, TVET or training skills centers. They are in our list. We have gone through the process with them. I would say about probably 40% on full registration, and the other 60, they are still going through the post process, so they're on provisional registration.
Okay.
Yes.
So how can people access this list? I know that, yes, you have a website, but there's still those that are not tech savvy. How can students access the list?
We have the official website where we post the list on a quarterly basis, because we need to review it and add or remove or things like that. So we have a quarterly publication of that. We also publicize it on our newspapers. We also engage in a lot of career guidance affairs with high schools. So when we go there, we do provide the list to the students, particularly the students that are about to complete. So we also work with the career guidance teachers, and we give them the list so that students know from the time they complete their studies. The career fairs, they are not only, we also have career fairs where we also engage with the public, with the general public, because it's not all of, some have completed a long time ago, so we do those initiatives to actually create awareness for students and parents to know that we have a list. Some do walk into the office and we provide the list for them.
Okay, so are there any programs that have been suspended by the council?
Unfortunately, yes, there are programs that have been suspended, and a majority of them, it's issues of non-compliance. If they're not complying to the quality standards, programs are not meeting the standards, then they get suspended by the council.
Okay,
yes.
No warning?
Warning on whose side? On the institution side?
On the institution side.
Usually it is a process. We go through together until we get to the suspension, because we also try to help them and say, probably if it's curriculum issues, we assist where they need to improve. But if that all fails and they prove to be non-compliant, then the council can suspend those programs.
Okay, so what are the warning signs that students and parents should look out for when identifying these bogus institutions?
The first warning sign is an institution that's not on our list, or an institution that is on our list but is advertising programs that are not accredited. So in our list, there's the institution and the programs that have gone the rigorous assessment. So if that program is not on the list, then it's not accredited. Also, we have institutions that over-advertise or give false advertisements on issues like they will give you a degree that you can complete in 1 year, We already have minimum standards that state how long a program is supposed to be. So if an institution is going to give you a one-year degree, then you already know there is something that is not they are not complying to. And also we have admission requirements. We have standard admission requirements that all institutions are supposed to use. So if an institution is now deviating from those minimum standards, then it is an issue. For instance, you have 2 credits that you completed your high school with, but there's an institution that says you can do a medical program.
That is hectic. All right.
Yeah.
You did mention about probably that you attended these career fairs just to give students information. Just after attending these careers, are they knowledgeable about these bogus institutions? What are some of the questions that they ask?
Fortunately enough, usually when we're having career fairs, some of the institutions, they do come for those career fairs and they start advertising programs that are not there. So as soon as we tell the students, they start asking. For the past 2 years, students have been flocking our offices to come and ask, particularly when the results have just come out. They will come to the offices and say, I want to enroll in this institution, or I have seen an institution and I want to enroll. So creating this awareness has shown us that students are interested, parents are interested because they are also paying these fees. So there has been a lot of traffic on that. So that's how we basically measure if we've actually met our target of creating awareness.
Yeah, and I've seen you've been visiting high schools recently, and how's that going? Also, are they knowledgeable about?
Yes, we started the initiative last year, just to sensitize students that you are completing, you are going to get good results. Please be aware of A, B, C, and D. And it has been going very good. We have a lot of head teachers and headmistresses asking us to come to talk to their students. Hence, we have engaged with the career guidance teachers because they have these exercises during the year and at the beginning of the year.
All right, so do you do like follow-ups or maybe visit some of these institutions just to ensure that they're still meeting the standards of the council?
Yes, there is one function that we have which is called compliance, monitoring compliance. So we do spot checks with our institutions, we visit them and just go through the standards, find out how they are still admitting, go through their records so that we know that there is no student that's going to be disadvantaged at the end, and also look at if they are still offering the programs that are accredited.
Okay, do you find that there are institutions that are not complying anymore?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's what usually then leads to the suspension of programs. Because when we do spot checks, when you just arrive and you're like, I need your admission records, for example, and then you go through the admission records, and then you find that they haven't been admitting students the way they are supposed to be admitting them.
So how long are they usually suspended for?
There is no specific time frame for the suspension of the programs. We suspend them until you resubmit a program for reaccreditation, and it is now in the correct standard you have met. So it's also dependent on the institution if it will come back.
Okay, so I suppose now the students will be flocking your offices. How are you planning to assist them, since it's the beginning of the year, they want to enroll at universities?
They can come to the office and to do inquiries. We also have a WhatsApp that they can send and inquire, and they can also ask through Facebook. And also we have an email, info@eshec.org.za, where they can send their emails. They have been flocking our emails and we do respond. We respond for both. If it's a university that's outside of the country and also in the country, we do give the proper guidance to the students.
I think they also just remind them on doing their proper research on university or institutions outside the country.
Yes. Please do that research. Don't just enroll in a higher education institution without finding out if those programs are actually accredited. Universities can have a lot of programs. They will advertise a lot of programs, but it is important that you know that they have an accreditation. And also in the country, in our higher education institutions, the programs that are accredited, they usually get a certificate that we encourage them to actually put where it is visible and students can see which programs are actually accredited by ESHEC.
All right, thank you so much, Batfobile. You know, after this interview, let's just hope students will do the right thing and not,
thank you so much.
And not go enroll in these bogus institutions. It's 5 minutes before 8 o'clock. That is Quality Assurance Officer at the Eswatini Higher Education Council, Batfobile. I mean, it's just giving us a list of the registered and legally operating institutions in the country. Before you enroll, she has emphasized that do your research or visit their offices for more information. Let's quickly go for an ad break. We come back and wrap up the program.
To all the viewers of Eswatini TV in the kingdom and beyond. Eswatini TV is regulated by the Eswatini Communications Commission through the Broadcasting Code and Broadcasting Guidelines. Under these instruments, the station commits to broadcasting information and news that have been fact-checked, programs and content in respectful language with no elements of hate speech, violence or sexual activity. If you hear any unsuitable content on this channel, you have a right to voice your complaints with the station management. Should you not be satisfied with the response or action taken, you can escalate your matter to the Communications Commission at PO Box 7811 Babani. Call 2406 7000 or send an email to info@esccom.org.za. For more information, visit www.esccom.org.za.
Kude lesinye isikhathi ngaphandle kwalesi.
Aba research bafunze.
Being risky means ukuthi nalokuwa kwayo kulula.
Nathi kufuna sende ukukhiqiza lokusembili.
When you choose your adventures, you do so with an open heart and a desire for the unexpected. You embark on journeys to discover new worlds full of wonder. You choose a path to awaken your senses, a world to make you look up and realize just how inspiring this life can be. Arrive and awaken your heart. Explore life in ways only thought possible in your dreams. Discover just how far you go to expand your understanding of life's greatest mysteries. There's just one place on this planet with so much to offer. Now is the time for you to have the royal experience.
Welcome back. It's a minute before 8 o'clock. We've come to the end of our episode. Thank you for tuning in. Sendivele ukuthi manenga kakhulu lama bogus institutions out there and bayayenda imali. Kepha ke gcina konke nguwelo bese thikabeteka ngalokho ulahlekelwa imali and also nale qualification yakho ukuthi la itax khona. So it's wise ukuthi you visit the Eswatini Higher Education Council's website or Facebook page ubuke all the list of accredited or registered institutions in the country, or visit their offices for more information. Have a lovely day. Thank you for tuning in. We will see you tomorrow at exactly 6 a.m.